Welcome to You Own It with Jerry Thompson. And this week, what I'm going to talk about is something that many of you will face 3-4 times in your lifetime. And that is, how do I select an agent to sell my house? And let me start that conversation by giving you kind of what I think are kind of the keys to, if somebody says to me, Jerry, you've done very well in real estate. And in doing so, in reaching like the top 1% and being one of the top agents in market, what are some of the factors that influence that? What make you a good agent or good in your job? And I'm going to share, I think, quickly kind of what I call my 3 life lessons. I taught these lessons to my children. I will teach them to any agent who wants to succeed from a real estate perspective. I think if you want to be a good golfer, follow these lessons. You want to be a better golfer. I mean, some people, you want to be a better golfer. You want to be better in athletics. You want to get better grades. You want to do anything in life. There are 3 things I always say help people to succeed. So when you often, people have always said, oh, he's only successful because, when you hear all these sour grapes of what makes people, people that are not successful traditionally complain. That guy's good at golf because he's a natural athlete. That kid's good at hockey because his parents know somebody. He skates well because whatever. That agent's good because he knows everybody. And the reality is, the kid's got good grades because he's naturally smart. No. There are 3 things that if you do these 3 things, you will do better at whatever it is you're doing. Number 1, work more than the other guy is willing to. So to give you a perfect analogy, I play in a golf league on Tuesday evening, and me and a few guys were sitting around having a beer after the round yesterday, and we were talking a little bit about another golfer that was very good. And somebody at the table said, well, they're very good because, and somebody else said because of this. And the conversation went around and around and around until ultimately we decided that, a couple reasons that somebody is very good. And one of them is that while I might play 9 holes of golf a week, if I'm lucky, sometimes I play a whole round a week. The guy that's very good, and I don't practice putting, don't practice chipping, don't practice anything else. The guy that traditionally is very good is, while I'm doing something else, spending time on the driving range, adjusting their swing, making fixes, practicing putting, working on their short game, they are working more than the other guy's willing to. So when you're talking about anything in life, how did that kid get a 98 in a test versus the kid that got an 80? Chances are really good that, all things being equal, the person that did better worked more than the other guy. And that works exactly the same way in real estate. And by work, I mean work. I don't mean hanging out at the office, drinking coffee, complaining, oh, I had this sale, it didn't work out. I'm having a rough day. Talking to all your friends on the phone who aren't buying or selling real estate, chit-chatting, and just generally griping. I mean sitting at a desk and functionally working, focusing on what you're doing and working. And if you lined 10 people up and they all were told to do a certain thing to be successful in real estate, the ones that really stand out are traditionally the ones that do what they're supposed to do, and then they do something else. And then after they're completed with that something else, this is a lesson I learned from my father a long time ago. Make one more phone call than the other guy, and when you're done with that other phone call, do another one. And when you're done with that one, do another one. So if everybody made 10 phone calls every day, they would all be average. The guy that's not average is the one that does 30 or 40 compared to the 10 that somebody else does. So key to success number 1, work more than everybody else. And there'll be people that will say, oh, Oh, but I need my extra time for family. There's not a good work-life balance. Well, what I'm talking about here, do you want to be successful? You have to work more than everybody else. You want to have more family time, then spend more time on that. That makes you better at that than everybody else is spending less at it. It works the same way. So the more time and energy you focus above and beyond what the next guy does, better off you are in that event that you're focusing on. Work more than the average guy, and you'll be better than the average person at what you're doing, whatever that task may be that's important to you. You want to manage money well? Spend more time working on money. You want to sell more houses? Spend more time selling houses. Right? You want to be a better golfer? Spend more time practicing golf. Work more than anybody else. Number 2 in my 3 keys. Focus on your process and completing your circles, not the results. Build habits that are the same, whether or not you're succeeding or you're failing that week. And what do I mean by that? If you every day wanted to be successful at a sales profession, real estate, by the way, is strictly commission. The numbers don't lie. Salespeople that sell a lot are focused on the process, not the result. They're focused on what they do every day. They're coming into work, same time. They're doing the same things. And while they're selling a bunch of stuff, they continue to do the same thing. Start at a time, finish at a time, do the same things every day. When they're not succeeding, they start at a time, they finish at a time, they succeed at the same time every day. Focusing on that process creates a consistent circle of success, and it goes around quicker. A lot of people in life will, what I call, do a lot of half circles, where they're not necessarily focused on the process. And let me give you an example. A real estate transaction starts when you sign the listing or the purchase contract, but it's not done. There's financing, there's deposits, there's attorney approvals, there's getting the mortgage commitment, dealing with the appraisal, dealing with inspections, there's title work, searches, surveys, final walkthroughs, appliance transfers, and closing. I can tell you there's about 2,500 realtors in my market in Western New York, and there are a bunch of them that are what I call stuck in the middle. And the reason that they're stuck in the middle is because their process does this. I get a contract and sell a house. Oh yeah, I have to get the deposit. What do you mean? We haven't done the inspection. And then completely ignore the mortgage. That's irrelevant. Then there's a problem and they quit. And they have a half circle. And what happens with, getting the job off your desk quickly, getting the job done and completing the job, getting what you need to be done that day as a standard normal process means to the clients, the buyers and sellers, they're never stuck waiting in a waiting pattern. And there's nothing more frustrating, by the way. Have you ever opened your computer and had it do that death spin, but it doesn't do anything? Well, if you're a client of a realtor and you say, I want to make an offer, and then the response is, you're in the death spin. And it will create anxiety for the clients. It'll create discomfort for the clients. And then what ends up happening is the agent doesn't complete their circle, so they get stuck. Life works the same way, guys. You got something you need to do, finish it, and then go to the next thing. Don't start a project. Have you ever driven by one of those houses where the owners have started 22 projects? They got a new window on one side of the house and they took the trim down, but they didn't put the trim back up. And then it looks like they're tearing out bushes the next time, but they haven't completed the bushes. And then they go paint a couple of the steps, but they didn't finish the painting on the porch. And then part of the handrails are fixed, but they're not all clean. That's somebody that's stuck with half circles. And then what happens when you're stuck with half circles, you get this overwhelming, there's too much to do. It overwhelms, it impacts, it creates negative feelings, negative vibes. It's bad for your customers, especially in my business, for them to be anxiously waiting for somebody that isn't finishing the job. And it's bad in everything else you do in life. Complete your circles. Enjoy the process. The process is what, follow your process, finish your process, it gets the results. If you feel like you're doing the process over and over and over again and you are not getting the results, you will, assuming you're being honest with yourself. Many people will come and tell me, Jerry, I followed your process. I'll go, that's great. How many days in a row did you follow the process? And most of the time it's like, oh, I did it on Monday. How come I'm not getting results? It's advertising. For years, I've advertised for 30 years in the same local publication, Easter Advertising. 30 years. And people say, how do you have name recognition? I just ran an ad last week and nobody knows, nobody noticed it. Well, you have to do it every single week or every other week. So it becomes a drumbeat to your life. And the longer you do that, the better the habits you build, and you will have more success. Focus on the process, complete the process. As I love to say, if you pictured yourself, you're a football player and let's say you're a cornerback, you're Trey White, and Aaron Rodgers from the Steelers, good luck, Pittsburgh, throws an interception to you and you're Trey White. And you start running down and there's nobody in your way and you've got a touchdown and you spike the ball at the 15-yard line, it's not a touchdown. You just fumbled the ball. Finish daily your process on everything. Don't spike the ball before the touchdown. Enjoy the run to the end zone and you will get to the end zone. One step, one step, one step, one step, one step. Once you're in the end zone, you can spike the ball. Then, step 3, you just spike the ball in the end zone. What are you celebrating for? There's another play. 100% is the target. And if you get, it's kind of a running joke of mine. I ran into somebody a few weeks ago at a supermarket and they said, oh, my brother's been in real estate. And boy, he's killing it. He sold $1 million last month. And I looked at him and I go, that's really great. So what's he going to do this month? Everybody can do something once. Do it again and again. Make 100% a repeatable period of success. And if you're not at 100%, let's say, and let's liken it, I'll liken it to testing in school. Okay. Let's say your goal is you wanted to sell $2 million of real estate a month and you sell 1.6. Maybe the question you should be asking yourself is how come you're not at 2? Not celebrating the 1.6. Now, not all of you agree with this. I know, especially in today's world where it's all, positive reinforcement and all this crap. One of the things that functionally drives me for my success is an insatiable hunger to achieve more. And how I do that is I motivate myself with kind of what I call the underdog theory. I almost talk myself into that I'm not at 100%, that I can do more. I'm only at 96. And I go, why didn't I get the other 4? And I obsess more on that than I do on the 96 I have. Years ago, when I was a younger agent, I used to focus on having success, and then I would do what I call roller coaster, which is what most agents do. They get very, they're kind of going along, and all of a sudden they get very busy, and they sell a bunch of stuff, and their sales numbers go way up. Then they hit the top, and then you see on their social media for the next 3 months, them on a Bahamas cruise, a Disney trip, yachting, golfing, enjoying themselves out in a weekend at Elegantville. And then they come into the office in October and they go, oh, Jerry, I did $3 million in May. I haven't done anything since. What have I done wrong? Well, you were spiking the ball. You were celebrating for 2 months. You haven't been in the office. You were cashing your checks and you weren't focused on the process. You were focused on the celebration. And right when you're at your height, one of the things that have differentiated my volume in sales today versus a few years ago is right when I'm really on a roll, I focus intensely on the process because I know that roll is going to end. And if I don't have that process in place, the roll will be a pitfall as opposed to a slight dip. And then I'm back up again. So I don't I don't roller coaster. I do kind of this. Straighter line success results. So, and if you're interviewing agents, by the way, if you have somebody with these three qualities, you're going to do very well as a customer, with them using you as you using them as an agent. You will do very well. You'll have somebody that's a little obsessive, a little compulsive, working way too hard, working for you, by the way, because people that follow these traits, I like to think, at least in sales, are really outwardly focused on results. So work more than the other guy. Focus on the process, not the results. The grind is the victory. And people that obsess over why they haven't gotten better. The obsess over why you've gotten better, I mean, I wish I had that trait when I was in high school and college. I didn't. I always celebrated. I got an 86, hooray. I never focused on the, why didn't I get the other 14%? I didn't have that motivation, didn't have that fire. It hadn't learned that yet. It took me 20, 30 years to learn it. Now I've kind of got, if I'm not hitting numbers, it gnaws on me a bit, and then it kicks me back to, am I working harder than everybody else? And am I focusing on the process? And if you follow these three things, work more, focus on the process, 100% is the target. It's not 96, not 94, not 92. And if you follow those three things in golf, in hockey's a great sport. Nobody's natural at hockey. There's nobody. There's nobody in natural. There's kids, people, adults that have better hands, better this, but there's still fundamentally the need to skate around on a puck with a long stick on two blades on ice. And the more you practice, the more you focus on working harder than the other people practicing, the more you follow the process of learning how to skate better, change edges, do all this stuff, and the closer to 100% getting your skill set together, the stronger of a player you're going to be. Golf is another one. If you work harder than everybody else, you focus on the process of results, you focus on your short game, the little things, completing your circles, your game will improve. And if you focus on not celebrating that you just got your first 89 versus a 90, or you get your first 79 versus an 80, and wondering why you're not at 73, that will improve your game. Works the same way in sales. Sales. Work more, focus on the process, 100% is the target. So now let's get to the meat of this. If you're thinking about interviewing or hiring a real estate agent, how do you find a good one? And today it's getting, easier because you can Google, you can use a website, but I always say, number one, look for personal recommendations. Talk to people who have dealt with other agents and see if they recommend somebody. Those recommendations, especially if it's somebody that's trusted, and ask questions. Is my agent full-time? Are they a team? Do I get that agent the whole way? How did they do? How long was your house in the market? How did they price it? What strategies did they use? What did you think at the end? Did you give them a great review online? Do you feel satisfied with the amount of money you got? How was the buying process? Were they established in certain processes that made you comfortable the entire way? What is it you liked about the agent? What is it you didn't like about the agent? Ask people you know, and then call an agent based on that recommendation. Number two, look at online reviews. I always say there's several places to find them. Realtor.com, Zillow, the company's website. Real Satisfied is a review site that a lot of agents use. Look at the national company's website, say if it's a RE/MAX Keller Williams agent, see if they have reviews attached to their bios, because a lot of companies will review the clients and then share them with the bios. Century 21 does. They review everybody after every transaction, and then my reviews go on to century21.com and they go on to realtor.com. I have some clients that voluntarily post stuff on Zillow.com. And there are some websites that don't do reviews, but focus on reviews. And don't just focus on one site. Don't go to Zillow and see this agent's got 82 and this agent's got 12. Check out Zillow.com and check out Realtor.com. Those are two of the strongest review sites. Look for not only the reviews and the stars, but look at the recommendations. And this is the key with reviews. A lot of sites will let agents put their own personal reviews in. So you'll see And it becomes very, very obvious if you just look at them. You see an agent with 132 reviews and they've been in the business for 2 years and they've got 18 sales. And then if you look at them, there's Joe and there's Leo and there's Betty and there's Sam and there's Frank and there's Fred. And all the reviews sound like they're written by the same person. There's no last name. There's nothing attached to it. There's no, it was somebody that said, I need reviews. Oh, Billy's great character. Oh, Billy did a great job in selling my house. Oh, Billy, they're all like one sentence, two sentences. It becomes very obvious when they're fake reviews. Nothing makes me madder than fake reviews. I mean, I just, they're earned. Respect them. So when you're looking for an agent, go to realtor.com, look at the reviews. I think I have 200 and something in realtor.com and 400 and something in Real Satisfied. These are, and then with the reviews, see if the agent, if it's a full name, it's a name you recognized, or it's a name and a town. Some clients don't want to post their name. Some clients will say Sam T, East Aurora, New York. Look for anything that gives it an indication of validity as opposed to just arbitrary, Sam, Bill. Look to see if that agent's got so many sales in a couple of years. Like when an agent's got 200 sales and, 400 reviews, it makes sense. If meaning they only count sales for only so long, like a yearly cycle. But if an agent's selling 2 and they got 400 reviews, either they're retiring or they've got reviews that don't make any sense. Be a skeptic, all right? And look at them and then maybe call the agent. If you really like one, you're questioning it, call the agent. Ask them some questions about the reviews. Who sold something? Another good way to find an agent is to look at their sales track record and who sold what. Some agents will send postcards out to the neighborhood telling you they sold something. If they sold another house in the neighborhood, you then go look the reviews, see if there's any personal recommendations, see if they have any track record or results, and have them over for an interview. See if you like them. Or go online and look at who are the top sellers in the area that you live. See if those are the type of agents that you want to work with. And by the way, none of this means that somebody that's newer in the business or hasn't sold a lot doesn't have good reviews and isn't worth interviewing. Because there's still another component to all this, and I always say the interview. Because the fourth most important reason you want to hire an agent is you want to hire an agent that treats this as a job, just like a job interview. If you were McDonald's and you're hiring somebody to flip burgers, or you are a high-end computer coding company that's having a coder, you might go out and ask for recommendations. Who's the best burger flipper? Who's the best coder? You might look online to see if there's any history that person has, their social media, their track record. Who are they? Are they on LinkedIn? Do they have a resume anywhere? You might review their resume. You'll look at the prior results, which are who solds, and then you still have them in for an interview. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be their boss and you're going to be working with them, it's really important that you're compatible. You feel that the communication between you and the agent is comfortable. You feel as though the agent is sincere, is being honest with you. And you also feel as though you can ask sensitive questions and get an honest, sincere answer that helps you get directions. You want to make sure that when the chips are down, you're hiring somebody that's a problem solver, not a problem creator, or what I call a desk stucker. And there are many of those people in this world, unfortunately. And a desk stucker, let me define a desk stucker to you. I just had a transaction, and it's a true story. So I had a transaction about 2 weeks ago, and we were struggling with getting a final mortgage commitment on a property in which the buyer had been pre-approved. And the buyer was calling the mortgage representative who had taken the loan, and every Friday had texted the buyer, commitment's on the way, everything's okay, all good, working on it. Commitment's on the way, everything's on the way, all good, working on it. And after about the third week, I said, This is becoming a struggle. We don't have the document. We have somebody that keeps promising you the world, but delivering nothing. So either they have half circles, back to my keys, not completing the job, they're not finishing the process, or there's something wrong. And when there's something wrong, there's two types of people in this world. There's a problem. There's those that run to the problem, identify the problem, notify you immediately of the problem, and solve the problem. And there's two, those that know there's a problem, it's on their desk, and they hide under their desk, and every once in a while they peek up and look to see if the problem's gone. Whoop, it hasn't gone away. Whoop. They're desk stuckers. I always, and how I came up with that expression. And in this particular circumstance, this guy was promising everybody everything. And then I finally called him and he gave me this lecture. You know how long I've been in the business? And I said, oh, okay, well, watch out. And I said, but there's a problem here. And you're not telling anybody what it is, because otherwise you would have been on 3 weeks ago when you were telling everybody it was an issue. And then he kind of hemmed and hawed a bit. The next day we had another conversation, and I said, and this is actually it's almost embarrassing for the loan officer who shall remain nameless. And I said, are you struggling with the application for a reason? Like, is there a ratio that's off or something? Because if there is, the solution to that is, rather than trying to jam the square peg into the round hole, would be to say to the buyer, if you just round these numbers a bit, you pay off a car or you do something on a lease. I said this literally to him. I said, is there car lease or car or something? They have extra money. They could pay it off, and that will make your ratios better and get it approved. The very next day he called up and said, hey, looks like I'm going to get it done. They just need to pay the car off. The guy had been ducking us and giving us BS. He had a problem. He was ducking under his desk. So when you're selling houses, you're also going to run into problems. So make sure when you're interviewing an agent, they've had problems and they have solutions to those problems. Tell me a problem that you had that was pretty significant, that you're pretty proud of yourself that you solved, that most other agents couldn't. Name one. What happens if the mortgage doesn't come in town? Are you going to be involved? You're going to have a conversation with the mortgage person? You're going to say, oh, that's up to the mortgage guy. What happens if there's a problem with title? You're going to call the attorney and say, oh, that's up to the attorneys. I don't do that. That's not my job as a real estate agent. Yes, it is. Do you know why? The agent's job is to finish, to get you to the end zone. Don't spike the ball at the 50-yard line. That's not a touchdown. It's to get you to the end. So when you're interviewing, look for personal recommendations, look for reviews, look for who sold stuff, and interview for problem solvers, not desk stuckers, because there will be a problem in your transaction. And when there's a problem in your transaction, you need somebody that can identify it, attack it, and address it, not somebody that's hiding under their desk hoping it will go away. So when you see people achieve, you see real estate agents that are successful, it is because they are working more than anybody else. It is because they are focused on the process, not the results. It's because they are working at 100%. They have something that's making them compulsive about this job enough that they want to complete the job for their clients and make them happy clients. And when you're looking for those agents, you can see that result in personal recommendations, in reviews, in records of sale. I managed salespeople for a long time. And one of the keys in sales, this is numbers don't lie. The other way to put it is, let's use ice hockey as an analogy again. And sorry if you're out West Coast. I'm in Buffalo, New York. We're almost in Canada. Hockey is a very important sport here. Shooters shoot. And if you shoot, you score goals. Shooters shoot. In sales, salespeople sell. Salespeople sell. If you see sales, you know they're working harder, you know they're focused on the process, and you know they're 100% on target. A lot of people get their real estate license and dumb luck into sales. That's okay, but they're going to roller coaster drastically. The results are going to vary from month to month. They're going to be all over the place. And the question is, do you want to sell your house with this? Or do you want to sell your house with that? And the 4 keys to choosing an agent. If you don't know anybody, get a couple personal recommendations. Read some reviews online. Pick somebody you like from the reviews based on the personality you think it's going to work. Call them up. Yeah, say, hey, we're thinking about interviewing you. Got a couple quick questions. How were your sales results last year? I see you have some good reviews. Would you mind coming by here? Let me tell you all there is to know about my house, my circumstances, and we'll sit down at the kitchen table and I'd like to interview you. I'm going to get some questions from ChatGPT, things to ask agents. What do you do? What's your process? How much you charge? What do you think about pricing? And choose that agent. One key thing, differentiator. I'm going to draw a line here. When you're thinking about hiring an agent, if you love somebody that's got the best process and their pricing recommendations lower than another person that you interviewed, hire the one with the best process, not the one with the best price. Well, why is that? It's called buying a listing. There are many people out there that will overinflate your value in order to get the listing. That's not to say realtors aren't supposed to do it. Some will do it, honest mistake. They just don't have enough familiarity with the market. But if you're impressed with somebody's process, you're impressed with how they're going to market it, you're impressed with what they're going to do, and they say your house is worth about $500, and somebody else says your house is worth about $560, and they don't have any process at all, the guy at $500, if it's worth $560, will get you $560 because their process is better. And let's do it one more time. They're working more than anybody else. They're focused on the process and completing their circles, not the results. They will intercept the ball. They will get it to the end zone. Or they'll be a wide receiver. They'll catch it out at the 50. And they have open land to the end zone. They will not spike the ball at the 20. They will complete the job. And they will be, after they've completed the job, focused on the next job for the next client right away. They won't stop. They'll be what I call relentless. I think we had flags back here. Century 21 agents are relentless because the reality is you want, when you're talking about the largest single financial investment of your life, you want to hire somebody that you can trust is going to be relentless on your behalf. Or another analogy will be if you had some issue and you were in the legal process, which is a miserable process. I hope nobody ever has to, go through a matrimonial or go through a scenario where they are in litigation. Knock on wood, I've never really had to deal with that very much, but I work with attorneys every day. And that wasn't even what I knocked on, but whatever it is, if you're thinking about hiring somebody and you're going to pay them $300, $400 an hour, you want a relentless attorney as well. You want somebody that's going to work hard for you. You want somebody that's going to be focused on getting the process to go through, not stagnate in the courts. And you want somebody that's going to be focused on winning the 100%, not settling the thing out, not in your favor. You're going to want, in all of this, you want the relentless person. So, and the 4 best ways to choose an agent and find that type of person: personal recommendation, check out the reviews, find out who sold stuff. Sales don't lie in sales. Shooters shoot in hockey. Running backs run in football. Quarterbacks throw in football. If you're hiring a quarterback on a football team and he's never thrown the ball, or he's only thrown it twice, he's not going to see the same coverages as the guy that throws it 40 times a game. Meaning he's not going to read the field that well. And then interview him. And if you're not comfortable interviewing one, interview 2 or 3. And then make sure that you're a fit. I go on interviews every week, and occasionally I get this little feeling in my stomach. It's just not working between me and them. And it used to be years ago, I would try to fix that. Sometimes when it's not working between me and them, I just say to them, you know something? I love the fact that you're sitting here interviewing with me. I just don't know if at the end of the day, you and I working together is going to be the right thing for you or me. Thanks so much. It's a remarkable thing. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be partners with that agent for 60, 90, sometimes 6 months to a year of your life, depending on if you're buying, selling, how long it takes you to look, how many houses you're going to look at. And if you're selling, this market's more like 60 to 90 days because houses hitting the market are selling quickly, but you need to be focused on getting that right agent. Once again, thanks for watching You Own It with Jerry Thompson. Follow me on all of your favorite podcasts. Like, follow, share, and we'll see you next month. Thank you so much for tuning in to You Own It. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for any resources mentioned during the show. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow us on your favorite podcast apps, and turn on your notifications so you have access to the latest and greatest. All of our social channels are clickable in the show notes as well. I'd also like to remind you to check out our website, c21jerry.com. There you'll find more info on me as well as my latest listings for all of Western New York. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, through any big decision, you own it.